back to Philly Hot Radio. Let me tell you, we just had an interesting segment with an 8-year-old reporter, and I see some great things coming out of that young lady there. I certainly hope you did not miss it. But and then we have Rochelle Bilal, who's running for Philadelphia Sheriff's Department, and she's a different kind of Democrat. So we had a couple of great guests up here with interesting content, and today we have another one. You know, the show's not over yet. We have Brandon Jones, Philly Youth Peace Movement. And first of all, Brandon, how are you today? Thanks for joining us on Philly Hot Radio.
Doing very well, Brother Nate. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Man, you go way back, Brother Brandon, so we ain't going to act like this is a new thing with us. We go back for years. So
yes, sir.
Tell me what you've been up to.
Basically, man, well, you know, for the folks that don't know, I'm Brandon T. Jones. I'm the executive director of New Generation Foundation Incorporated. We're a medium-sized nonprofit here in Philadelphia for the last, I guess, almost 6 years. And what we aim to do is reduce youth violence by way of mentoring young people here in Philadelphia. Not just our high-risk individuals, but some of our young leaders here in the city. We try to spend time, you know, building up self-esteem, getting them ready to start businesses and learn how to lead.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, how long have you been doing this?
It's almost 9, going on 10 years now. We're going on 10 years.
And as long as I've met you, I've known you about that long. And
yes,
as
sir.
long as I've met you, you've been doing this work. You've
yes,
been out with not only your stuff, other people's stuff, organizing. I used to always see you everywhere with a bullhorn in your hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's my Nike sign, a bullhorn.
What is your Instagram?
Oh, Mr. Motivation. Yep, Mr. Motivation. Yep. That's my brand as far as my public speaking, going into the schools, juvenile facilities, the prisons, every time I get a chance. And, you know, that's where Mr. Motivation came from.
Where did all of this begin with you? I mean, like I said, when I met you, you were always doing this work. Walk me back to the beginning.
I mean, the beginning, man, if you really want to be honest, man, I was serving some time. You know what I mean? I was one of them young people that actually, you know, my mom said I was two different people. I was one person outside and then one person in the house. Mm-hmm. So kind of a lot of the things in my environment growing up here in Philadelphia, and then having a chance to move out to Montgomery County with my family, you know, I got to kind of see the both sides, you know, the best sides and the worst sides of both worlds, basically. And that kind of led me to, you know, some good things. But then they say wherever you go, you are who you are. And I kind of went out there and I kind of took some of the street mentality that I learned here in the city of Philadelphia, and it kind of clashed to the point where I ended up in prison, you know, serving some time. Mm-hmm. One of the guys, I was out there, you know, selling drugs and just making bad decisions. And after my time, man, upstate and county facilities, man, I met some good brothers that loved on me, man, some lifers, you know, and they talked to me, they prayed with me, man, and they showed me some things about myself, about the plight of the black man and who we are in society and who we should be. And that's where a lot of it started, brother. That's where it came from.
You know, we hear a lot about transformation, people changing their lives.
Yes, sir.
And then we actually have in you a manifestation of that having taken place. What would you say to those people who are out there on the streets? They haven't seen the other side. They haven't yet entered a state correctional facility, and they're still out there wilding out. What would your advice be to them before they even get caught?
My advice really, man, would just be to stop it. You know, I know this is a family-friendly show, so I would say stop it. Mm-hmm. And then I have another slogan that's stop BSing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because one thing for certain, when you get to a certain age, especially my young black men and my boys of color, you got to get off your mama's couch. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to put some of those childish things aside, and you're going to have to do it ASAP. Because what life is going to hand you is not going to always spank you like mommy. It's not going to wash your clothes and cook your food like mommy does. Mm-hmm. If you're over 21 and you got 10 toes, 10 fingers, and a brain, and you can actually get up and move, then I think you need to do something about your situation. And that's what I got to tell them, is that you can't keep faking it and acting like the problems don't exist. Because when you go outside every day, you only have one opportunity to make a good choice. And if you use that opportunity and spoil it and waste that day, what you do in a 24-hour period is going to determine the outcome of your life.
I heard one guy, I was covering an event for the Tribune, and he was saying what we all know. He was talking to a group of kids at a school.
Okay.
And he said, what'll happen is you get caught up in the system and you end up doing old what most people do young.
That's right.
That's
right.
Tell us a little bit about some of the consequences.
Some of the consequences. I mean, some of the consequences, man, well, it's a lot of consequences. It's not just one or two. Mm-hmm. Because, see, what we've learned now with our new partnership with the University of Penn, mm-hmm. And shout out to Sharik Raza, Dr. Sharik Raza, MD, who is our main sponsor over there that runs trauma unit 4 or 5 days a week, and he's a professor of surgery. What we've learned was how to deal with it from an approach as far as trauma prevention is concerned. Mm-hmm. So the way we look at trauma, the way we treat our trauma, this is why we do arts and crafts. This is why we do music. This is why we do podcasts. This is why we do, creating our own media outlets. All of these things are forms of treating our trauma, starting a new business, overcoming these fears and learning how not to just be the employee, but the boss, how to pay the bills and do the things on time that needs to be done. Those things help us treat our trauma. And we've tied a medical approach to it, and that's born the Philly Youth Peace Project.
I mean, we definitely got to speak more about that trauma part. Now,
mm-hmm.
when you say trauma, because that's a sweeping term.
Oh, yes, sir.
It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. But here, especially where it comes to
mm-hmm.
Philly Youth Peace
yes,
and
sir.
the New Generation Foundation, how are you using the term trauma? How do you define it?
We define it as not a temporary thing. Mm-hmm. We define it as not a permanent thing. Mm-hmm. That it can be unlearned mm-hmm. if treated properly. If learning how to fill the void with more positive energy, more positive thinking, and more positive action, mm-hmm. because we believe execution is everything.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you work trauma prevention? How is mm-hmm. trauma prevention carried out at the New Generation Foundation? Okay,
well, the way we do it, let's say a young person comes to us, he's 17, he's 18. He's caught up in the drug game. He's seen his best friend get murdered, whatever, right? Mom, dad might be, getting high, one of them locked up, and things are not so good at home. This is what a lot of our young people are facing here in the inner city in Philadelphia. And let's say he's looking for an outlet. He wants to get out the gang or he wants to get off the dope block, but he doesn't really have the outlet. His main concern is money. So when he gets to the New Generation Foundation Opportunity Center, the first thing we're going to do is love on him. We're not just going to do an intake for him, but we're going to love on him. We're going to talk to him about some of the obstacles that he's faced now. And then once we get some of these obstacles, even if that wall is up, we're going to break them down through music, through arts, through culture, through entertainment. We're going to allow this young individual to create some social conscious projects that can help them benefit not only their mind, body, and spirit, but their pocket. You understand me? Because that void, the dope dealer got 100 pack for you. He said, give me 30, I'll take 70, risk your life. I ain't even giving you a cell phone, no more beeper. You can go ahead and get that on your own, get your Obama phone, and go out there and risk your life. We say, let's give them 100 pack. Come on and let's come to the print shop and we'll give you some t-shirts, some hoodies, some jackets. Mm-hmm. Put a positive slogan on it, a positive logo, a picture of you and your kids. Make 30 of them and go sell them to somebody that loves you. Like, we try to boost the morale. That's what we do at New Generation Foundation. That's different from nobody else's project.
So you change the product, you take them from drugs and,
yes, sir.
and other things, and you give them something positive to not only produce but to profit from.
There you go. Mm-hmm. There you go. And by sense, once they're done with us, in about 10 to 12 weeks, they end up becoming a business. We walk them through some different things. We send them down to the Urban Crisis Response Center in North Philadelphia and teach them how to, start that business with that, with everything they need to do down City Hall, the municipal building. We'll walk them through. We'll take them to our other partners downtown and we'll show them some things. Take them to the lawyer's office, show them how to patent that idea. Just certain things that we got to walk our young men and women through.
The New Generation Foundation Opportunity Center.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's smooth. That rolls right off the top.
That's what it's all about.
That rolls. The New Generation Foundation Opportunity Center.
That's right. That's right. OC. It's a brand new model that we're launching here in Philly.
Right. And so tell us more about that.
I mean, really what it is, man, me and my partner, John Valley, man, we came up with this, man. Some of our mentors, you know, I have a mentor, OG Law. A lot of guys seen him in the streets, shackles, chains, you know what I mean? And he's one of my mentors in the beginning of my life as this new person in Christ. And we were in Albion together, and he was talking to me about things we were going to do. SCI Albion is the furthest prison away from Philly.
It's out there.
And we were still thinking about Philly when we did it. And we came out, we built our first jail cell with the help of Brother Samad at the 16th and Oakdale, the Crisis Response Center. And what we did was something that we didn't have a blueprint, but we wanted to educate kids about prison and death prevention. You know what I mean? So now it's a step further. We built our first project down at 60th and Master with the help of the Knight Foundation, Open Society, and the Be Me, you know, black male engagement community, Brother Traven Shorters and the rest of the folks over there. And what we did with that money, that grant, we went and built that infrastructure. So now that we've all have our own organizations and we're all established, now what new generation is saying that we want to build more of what we did back in 2012, what we did in 14. You know, we've seen a number of young people's lives that were changed. You know, down 16th and Oakdale, we've seen a number of lives that were changed. So now where I'm at over in Frankfurt, we see the lives that are changed. So now we're in West Philly shopping for a project. I mean, I'm sorry, for a building that we can do this in a full manner where we can actually have some studios set up, 2 or 3 print shops, a boardroom to be able to bring our young men in so they can sit down and learn from some of the best in the business in and out of Philadelphia, where we can bring some of the top-notch speakers in finance, in health, awareness. You know what I mean? And that's where we're going, Brother Nate.
In West Philadelphia, you know, I'm born and raised West Philadelphia.
That's
you in my
your
neck of the
area
woods now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know Sony just didn't hit me with the Will Smith
Will
song.
Smith. Shout out to Brother Will Smith, man. Yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
but now, what can we expect out of you in the future? What do you have going on now? Like people watching, listening,
Yes,
watching on
sir.
social media or listening to us
Yes, sir.
online. Where can they go to find out more about you and keep up with what you're doing?
I mean, basically, where they can go to www.mrmotivationinspires.com. It's my website. We just launched it a couple of months ago. Also, we have a brand new podcast, the Grind and Grow podcast. It is streaming everywhere: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, as well as we just got approved for Spotify last week, and that took about 4 months. Right now, we're up to about 900 listeners. I'm trying to get it to 9,000, and we are breaking stuff down. Our new episode is out now, how to overcome post-traumatic stress disorder after incarceration, and that's streaming everywhere. You feel me? Because that's how you can get in contact. Everything is social media. Everything is, you know, let's put on the front. Right now, we saying let's get real. We're using social media to bring them in. Wherever we got to go to catch them on the iPad, to catch them on the cell phone or the Android, the tablet, we want to be right there, creating our own media presence, just like you guys are doing at Philly Hott Radio.
And you know, let's be real, there's no shortage of different groups. I remember Philadelphia had, and I was working at the office of a state representative at the time, and the guys would come out of prison, and we would refer them to what the city had, what they call a one-stop shop.
Yes, sir.
I eventually had to stop sending people there because they would come back with complaints like not much was being done. If you
That's
out
right.
there listening and you used to work there, no offense, I'm
That's
just
right.
keeping it real.
Come on.
But we can do better.
That's right.
But what is it that people are doing wrong? There's a lot of programs. There's a lot of groups,
programs,
but they
man.
don't seem to be having the impact that they really state their mission is.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
What needs to happen?
Well, I mean, it's damn near 20,000, man, nonprofits in Philadelphia alone. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, everything doesn't have to be a nonprofit. You know, what we're trying to do is take it back grassroots. You know, like my brother Nehemiah Davis is doing. My brother Nehemiah is one of my Be Me brothers, but he's one of my sources of inspiration right now. Because one thing about Nehemiah, he believes in, you know, taking this property that's out here vacant and turning it into something that the community can benefit from. And that's one thing we want to do. So what I'm saying is, find that mentor, find that person like me. I'm moving to launch my first book. Took me 3 years to get this book off to a ground. But my mentor is you, Brother Nate. Like I call you, I talk to you, mentor me through the process to, you know, even when I lost my computer and I lost the whole book, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You still
remember,
mentor me back to where I'm like, hey, I started the book from scratch because I know that some young person's life is going to be changed. And that's what it's about, is figuring out how to reach out get some of this property here, do some partnerships with the city, but not to the point where we depend on them for the dollars to push us to get the vision off. It's about being self-sustained. And that's what brothers like Nehemiah are doing, brothers like Eric Thomas that we see, down in Detroit. It's just about sustaining the efforts, because it costs to go into these schools and these juvenile facilities. It costs. It costs us because we don't get paid a lot, just like journalists. We don't get paid a lot, but if you get that one manuscript off, that takes you to the next level. Now they want to pay you a lot to come out and speak about how your journey. You know what I mean? So it's just a give and take, man, and that's what we're going through.
How can people help? You're the helpers.
Yes, sir.
When people need help, they call you.
Come on.
When stuff in the community, somebody's youngster is getting in trouble, they call you, and Brandon, can you come over talk to Junior? Can you talk to this person? Can you talk to that person? But helping people who help people need help to help them.
There you go.
How can they help you?
Well, how can they help me? Basically, man, if they got wood, nails, drywall, they can drop it off at 1704 Scattergood Street, Philadelphia, PA 19124. That's our main concern, is we want to keep building and stacking building materials, so when we get that building in West Philly and we can complete what we have going on at Frankfurt, there will be no misunderstanding. We can service more. That way we can get our numbers up, and we can be able to make sure when we go out for more funding in the next couple of years, we get what we deserve.
What is the response from the, if any, elected officials whose districts are in West Philadelphia and in the Northeast and Scattergood?
Well,
how have they, if at all, been supporting your efforts?
I mean, for the last few years, they've always been supportive. I mean, Councilman Curtis Jones down in West Philly, he's always been a friend of the movement. Council President, Mr. Clark, at the end of the day, I don't get to sit and talk with him and discuss some things that we're doing in the last few years. But I think that's something we need to do, with you guys maybe at the table. But I see it that, this is not just a new generation thing. I think all organizations that are out here, we need to man up. It's time for us to pull our pants up, stop arguing about the budgets and who's going to get this money and that money. And it's time to start raising money and spending it on the issues. Our young people need to learn how to make money at an early age. Our young people need to learn how to be more than just someone else's employee at an early age. It needs to happen. That's how we calm down these murders.
That's an interesting perspective, because I was listening to WURD 900 AM. They're not sponsors here, so I'm not promoting anything, but
Yes,
do
sir.
listen to them, because they have some interesting content, especially about our communities. But one of the things they were saying, the host is, and I'm not going to say his name, but the host was saying, if you look at the maps of the highest crime areas in the city, and then those same maps of the highest poverty rates and hunger rates in the city, they're synonymous. They're the same. So when you're talking about economically empowering people,
That's
and
right.
then as a means of reducing crime, there is some evidence that they correlate. Speak more on that for me.
I mean, they do correlate. It's like a lot of the crime happens because a lot of our young people, their families, they go without. So when they go without for a long period of time, that gentrification starts to happen. And that's when you start to see a lot of stuff getting pushed out of our neighborhoods that our families, our fathers, our mothers, our grandparents grew up in. A lot of that crime in the inner city happens because young people don't know how to communicate with the older generation. So with that clash causes a slightness towards the other generation, depending on which way the energy is coming. And when it clashes, that's when murders happen. That's when shootings, that's when robberies happen. That's when, hey, he has more than I do across the street, and I'm going to go over and take it instead of asking him or her how to go out there and get it myself.
We can do, in my opinion, law enforcement much different.
That's right.
And much differently in Philadelphia than we have been. And I know crime isn't just a one symptom thing.
That's right.
There are complex issues that converge to produce, and from what I've been able to see out in the streets and covering some of the news that happened in the past. What can we do different, in your opinion? And I'm not saying we as those who are already active. I'm saying those who are listening and those who are the officials, those who are in law enforcement. What can they do differently?
I mean, I do think that media plays a huge part. You feel me? And when I say media, I'm not just talking about, you know, everybody with their cell phones out and, you know, creating their own social media wave, but I'm talking about media, the way that our city is portrayed. You know, when I go to other cities and I fly out and I do my little speaking engagements and certain things, you know, and I see the news and I see how Philly's portrayed when I'm in other areas, you know, it doesn't look good to me. You know, it's not a lot of, you know, let's show the good parts of Philadelphia. And I think that's where a lot of it lies. It's like I think the media has to learn how to portray our stories a lot differently. Because when you go to some of the lily white neighborhoods, you don't see their stories about their day-to-day lives being portrayed as gruesome, as vulgar, as a put down, as something to set a generation back. You know, I don't see that when I go into other well-to-do areas. You know, so I say just building our own media outlets and not just taking our camera and just shooting it at things, but actually planning out some things, using that, you know, downloading some apps, you know, that can help you actually edit some videos and do some cool stuff that can help children learn the things that we know in a faster manner.
You mentioned elders, like mature, and there do seem to be a generation gap. I don't see it so much in Philadelphia though, because everybody still have the generation gap because everybody got their quote unquote old heads.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of have a love for them here in Philly, even though we.
You speak of old head. Let define the old head, because
I don't really like the term.
When I think of old head, I think of you know, those like 50, 60, 70, depending on the child who is out there. As when I was coming up, those were the ones that was like popping on the back of the head, pulling them by, you know, like, yo, come on, talking to them, having those heart-to-heart talks with these young black men out here. You know, granted, they probably were out there doing some wrong, but they were still pulling them to the side, letting them know, you don't want to be like me.
Right.
You don't want to do this.
And they didn't do it in front of the
yeah, they didn't do it in front of them. But nowadays, when you see old heads, you're talking about somebody like 5, 6 years older, and you like that's not your old head.
Well,
you know,
when
someone who's
young,
a little bit more mature, I consider like an old head. But with this new generation, you know,
when I was younger, it seemed like the people who I would consider like, the older, we didn't have the term old heads. I still don't, but for lack of a better term, my old heads seemed like they were a lot more mature, a lot older chronologically. But now that I'm older and I know more, than they weren't that much older than me.
That's
they
right.
were 5, 10 years. They were 21.
Yeah.
They were 25.
That's right.
I was like 13, 14, 15, but they were old heads and I thought they were like 35, 45, because they were so much more advanced. Like now you could see somebody 25, 35, and they acting just like they're 14 or 15. But then when you was 25 and 35, you had a job, you had a kid, you had a wife, you had, it was a lot different. But so I think the age of what we call old heads is relative. And, and I think one of the shames is that older people, more chronologically advanced people, are trying to be like young, because then the young have no one to look up to.
That's right.
If you're like me, then why should I try to be anything else? You're trying to be like me. I have nothing to aspire to.
That's right.
So I think the term is relative. What you think?
I mean, like at the end of the day, like I'm a young OG. Fabulous gave us that term, young OG. Me growing up in Philly, man, like we always respected our old heads. But then you had the old heads that everybody didn't respect. They just was an old head. You know what I mean? He just old head. He ain't no way. You feel me? So it's kind of like the way you look at it. It's two different, depending on which generation. I'm a millennial. So at the end of the day, millennials kind of look at it on a curve. It's like, hey, that's my old head. I got the old heads I respect, and then I got the old heads I disrespect. But at the end of the day, they all old heads. That's we just kind of gapped everybody together.
Yeah, you even got old heads who old heads don't respect.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
There's just some people who, and I think, not to get religious, but even the Bible says being old, gray hairs are things of pride.
That's right.
If it's established in wisdom. They're things of honor if established in wisdom. That's why a lot of Islamic brothers, they don't color their gray. They don't. They don't. I mean, you got some here in North America. Over here in America, let me tell you, you might find people who do anything. But you did not color it like, because gray hair was like a thing of honor of achieving wisdom.
Okay.
But now people just don't want to be old.
Yeah, you don't want to. You
That's
don't
right.
want to look old. You don't want to feel old. You know, you want to keep that youthful.
And the funny thing is, when I was young, I wanted to be older.
That's right.
Like, I didn't hang around my age set. They ain't have nothing to offer me. So I would go to the older people, and I'm talking about like in a senior home, when I had a little job at a senior home, oh man, I sit and listen to them for hours. They love me because their stories, and I guess that's why I'm a reporter today. But anyway, what do you think about that? The role of that older people can play in reaching out to younger people. I mean, especially, I mean, they may not be get out on the corner and talk to everybody because that's not that type of world nowadays. But what role can they play?
I mean, well, they've always played the instrumental role. You know, like when you look at the family, you know, the makeup of the family, regardless of what the family looks like. You know, older people have always been at the head, you know. And not only that, I think that they've always been there. They've not going anywhere. And I think they just need to get a little bit more assertive on how they deal with, especially their young people that's coming up in their homes, you know, and just not to be afraid of them anymore. Because there was a time when our mothers and fathers wasn't afraid of their children.
Still.
Now it's totally topsy-turvy. It's just different. So since it is different, I think that being more assertive and being more compassionate and not just judging from, hey, back in my day, this is how we would have. No, this is not back in your day. So you're going to have to be a little bit more compassionate when you're up against trying to assist your young people, especially the ones in your household. That's where it starts first. You got to be a little bit more compassionate because the way that they react today in 2019 is not the way that they'll react to certain situations in 1968. It's just not.
Look, when I'm around my parents, to this day, I'm still a boy. Like when it comes to the parents, and I mean they treat me with respect. Like
Yes,
I'm one of those people. I'm blessed. Like when I speak, family listen.
That's right.
You know, they may not always agree, but when I start opening my mouth, and I remember I first checked this out. The family it was some type of family discussion, and then everybody was talking, yeah, blah 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 blah, and then they asked me what I thought. Well, what you think, David? Then my family called me David, and then I went to speak, and everything got quiet. Everything, the elders, the young, everybody just started listening. Like, well, what's he gonna say? You know, and but I say that to say this. Even to this day, even having established my place in the family and among the community, when my elders speak, I still listen. Like,
yes, sir. As you should.
I may not always agree with what they say. Like I told my mother the other day, I said some of the stuff you were taught was wrong. She was talking about one of those homemade remedies. I said, well, mother, that ain't.
Come on.
we know better than that now. No, but my mother used to always say, but it's still that respect.
Yes, yeah. You gotta have that respect for your older generation.
Let me just ask you. Let me ask you this, Brandon, because like I've how did I meet? Oh, so I think it was Instagram.
Probably, Instagram.
Instagram. I was like, Dad, like look at him out here talking about Mr. Motivation. He's spitting the words out. I'm like, okay, all right.
And then we met at the Meek Mill rally. And they free
like,
Meek and all that back then.
To actually meet him, it was kind of interesting. But the youth, our youth, are I don't know like where this separation came from. This new generation, which is like pants down and I was on a sub. I left my mother today, and I'm on the sub and I'm listening to them, and every other word was a B word. And they're talking about the girls. These are high schools.
Yes.
And the one guy, he's a young guy. He was talking about he was getting ready to tap the other young guy. I'm sitting up here like you act like you 50, and he's like, but he's talking about hitting him, but he said no. So the other one explained what happened was not everyone knew what had happened. So he was trying to explain why he didn't tap me. You know, he didn't hit him, do physical harm to him because he would have, somebody would have filed charges because thank God he knew that, so hopefully it was a deterrent. But I'm listening to them, and the way they're communicating is just like, wow. Every other word was B word. This one's talking about he can't wait the weekend. He's going to get a hotel room, get this girl over. Apparently this girl is a little free. Yeah. She's a little, Wow. And I'm just like listening to him, like your conversation is like, there's nothing of importance.
That's right.
There, so I'm like, And I hear you say, you know, all these organizations out here for these youth. And I remember when I had a panel discussion, they were saying how there's nothing for these children to do when there is.
That's
they
right.
just don't want to.
Plenty to do.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
just don't want to participate in them. How do you get these? How do you capture them?
You gotta.
How do you get them? And how do you get them to want to be a part of this?
My thing is you gotta catch them. You gotta reach them on a level that they're on. My thing is I never came into activism and then now, you know, moving into entrepreneurism and building, you know, helping folks build personal brands, is that you gotta meet them on a level that they're on. You know, all of the trying to downplay them and telling them this is what you should do, this is what you need to do. It's kind of like they already know what they want to do, and if it's messing up, then that's just what they're gonna do. But if they have a thing in their mind that says, "Hey, I do want to get right at some point," then there is a way to reach them. But if you don't hear them out to see what it is that they're really interested in, instead of just wasting money throwing them in programs that some census board said that you should feed the kids this type of programming, like, you got to do something different with them. And that's the way that I catch them. I catch them just by rapping with them. You know, I'm a credible messenger. You know, we learned that at Temple University when we helped raise the money for the ceasefire program. You know, we learned that we had to be credible, you know, and we also learned that you can't roll up on these young boys looking like $2.02, talking about 6 wings, fried rice, and all that from the Chinese store. You know, we eating that Roof Chris now. We eat lobsters and shrimp. We take trips to Puerto Rico, and we go to London and France. And my wife came back from Jamaica last week, and like, they go to Bermuda and chill for the weekend. You know, like, we ain't just sitting on the block. Like, this generation is different now. We ain't just sitting around waiting on somebody to bless us with a full wing
you
platter.
know they sitting there on Instagram all day. Come
and
on.
that's how you get them.
Come on now.
That's how you
know
get
they
them.
on Instagram.
No, but I mean, that's how you get them. You
Right.
get them by showing them this is what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, it is.
When we grew up, nobody wanted to listen to the old head that was smooth and he ain't had nowhere to live. You're not listening to the homeless old head. You want to hear from the person that's authentic, that's been through some struggles, and he's still on top.
Yep.
Like, you go outside, my rims still shine on my car, and I don't sell drugs. I don't rob nobody. But when I was doing that, trying to chase that image of what a black male was, what I thought it was, I wanted the same things. And
Well,
that's
I'ma-
what you got to do. You
I'ma
got to
tell
meet them
you.
on a level.
My car dirty right now.
Come on.
My little hubcap fell off.
Don't worry, we'll clean that up. Don't worry, we'll tighten that up.
What I was telling my daughter, because she, you know, she likes to stay to herself, and I'm like, you know, man, you always, and I'm like, well, I was trying to give her tidbits, you know, like, do this, try to do that, you know, and like I was trying to explain to her when she broke down and started explaining some personal stuff to me, and I'm like, okay, here's the thing, it's hard for me, you know how it feels, how I feel or how other people feel when I've never learned how to swim.
Okay.
So what I did was I would take my children to the pool, the Boys and Girls Club, so they would learn, because my biggest fear was we always went to the beach. We always did something every year. Like every summer we went somewhere so they knew something besides where they lived. And my biggest fear was watching them drown, and all I can do is just stand there and scream. And I said, that's sort of like how I feel when you started telling me about how the things that are going in your life. What you need to, it's easy for me to say, oh, okay, but I don't understand it. When you're around other people who know how, it's easy to communicate because then you have a greater dialogue. And that's like some of these youth out here, when you see it, meet them where they are.
Meet them where they are.
And it's easy for me to tell them, get off that corner, boy. Don't be, you know. But if you're not telling them, get off the corner and offering them something, well, I'm going to stand up in the corner.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
I mean, it's easy to tell them, but if you're not helping them, shut up.
Yeah,
You know,
shut up and let them go.
Shut up, you know, because it's sad because some of these children have never been outside of
Philadelphia.
Their comfort zone or their city or where they live. Yep.
The county, the district, whatever. And like he said, you know, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, like
Yeah,
London.
you got to show them something.
And they don't know. And, you know, to just grab one and just, but it's easy said than done, you know. And, you know, I don't want to keep going on, but I commend him, you know, because like I say, I used to follow him on Instagram. Every time I turned around, he was like, "Y'all, Mr. Motivational."
That's
and
right.
T-shirts going on. Yo, get off the couch.
He could do some
something
T-shirts
to
now.
That's right. That's right.
He
That's
put-
right.
Be doing something. Get off your mom's couch.
Get off your
out
mama's
here.
couch.
He
You
driving-
already.
He driving in the car like, yo, I'm doing this. You can be doing it. I don't want
Real
You
talk.
don't want to be sugarcoating. Stop sugarcoating the lies.
That's
literally-
right.
It's a lie. You know, get off. No, you should not be of age. Like you said, you got the fingers, you got the, and you got the mentality. Get off and do some stuff. Sit
right.
on mama couch and whining, bitching, and complaining. That's not gonna get it.
It's not gonna
right.
get it.
No.
Nope, nope.
And it's so,
Not in the Trump's
certainly against
America.
the
It's
law.
not
Not
gonna
in
get it.
Trump-
In the
no.
Trump's America. Nope.
Nope.
And it ain't gonna get it in my house. So
Come on.
get up off the couch.
Get up.
Get
My
up
mother
off
used
your
to
mama's
say-
couch, man.
If I can work, every able-bodied in this house can work. That's the rule. And I don't care where you find a member of the Lee family.
That's
They
right.
working somewhere. I have a friend. He said, because you know I work like 3 jobs. You know,
right.
all low
Jamaican.
pay.
Like a Jamaican.
I
That's
ain't
right.
got no choice because Americans play so low. You know, I got to work like 3 to make half an income. But anyway, he was telling me. He said my days of working 3 jobs are over. I'm just, you know,
That's
because we
right.
the same age.
Yes, sir.
I said, man, look, a boy does what he wants.
Come on.
A man does what he must.
That's right. There you go.
And-
I like
and
that.
I'm a man.
There you
know,
go.
and
Yes,
if it
sir,
means I
brother
got to
Nate.
work 3 jobs, I'm gonna work 3 jobs.
You're gonna do what you gotta do.
Can't nobody ever say they came home and I had my foot up on their couch.
That's right.
Number 1, it's gonna be my couch.
Come on.
And number 2, if my feet are up on it, I'm gonna have a laptop and then I'm writing my articles.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
You know,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
reading a book.
That-
Because Brandon showed me.
Yes,
No,
sir. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yes, sir.
Look, tell us one more time,
Yes, sir.
people who loving what they hearing.
Well, man.
They want to be involved, how they
Okay.
can contact New Generation Foundation and Brandon Jones.
Well, this is the way, man. My big brother Nate, man. The way you can contact me is definitely on Instagram. I'm Mr._Motivation215. Also, my personal cell phone number to anybody that's more motivated than me, 267-886-0377. I want to hear from you if you're an entrepreneur looking for a recharge. And you can also book now at the website, www.mrmotivationinspires.com. Once again, I'm Mr._Motivation215. Get with me on IG. I'm trying to get to 3,000 followers because I'm running. And like I said, it's go time.
It's go time. You heard it right here, Philly Hot Radio.
Not slow time.
It's go time.
It's
Brandon
go
don't
time.
have a slow. He don't have a slow.
No,
He
it's
don't have a
nothing
neutral.
slow. No,
Let me
it's
tell you
nothing slow
something.
about him.
When I met Brandon, I met him and he was with other people. And you know, he still do his thing. He's
Yeah, he
very
still does his
collective. He
stuff.
got his own stuff. He got his collective stuff. But one thing I know about him, Brandon will not sit down. He
Yes,
will
sir.
not. He's a family man. He's a working man. There's no feet up on the couch type
No.
thing.
Thank
No,
you,
when
brother.
he say get up off the couch, he's out there working.
That's
He's
right.
going
I ain't
to
even
work.
on my couch. Yeah.
He going to work every day.
Yes, sir.
I will call
Yes,
Brandon
sir.
Yes,
on a
sir.
job, and then when he's off the job, he's working his vision.
That's right.
Some people they're waiting. I remember one time.
I purposely, not to interrupt,
Mm-hmm.
I purposely sit on my couch at least 2 to 3 hours per week. That's it, mandatory.
Right.
And I got 2 couches. It's mandatory.
Mandatory. And I take one day off. Well, I used to. I haven't had a day off in a few weeks, but my rule used to be one day off every week and do nothing. Do nothing. So it's important. Rest and recharging is as important as working and discharging. So
Yes, sir.
you know you got to you have to have a balance. And I've been burnt out a couple of times, so now
I
I
know that
really
feeling.
That's right.
I
that's
really
right.
pay attention to that point. But look, Brandon, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
It's-
you. Oh, I just want to congratulate y'all before I go. I love what you're doing.
Oh,
Baby
thank
girl, you keep on doing what you're doing. Every time I see you, you're just smiling and you're just ready to go. And I appreciate that because there was times when I was in the bed like, man, not today. And I coach. I'm like, damn, where's she at? She had another event. She had another.
She
and I be
stay out
seeing.
there.
And then, she she keep her little celebrity with her. Hey, smile. There you go. You know what I mean? So when I see that sometimes, I'm like, hold on. I can give him one more video today. One more little podcast. So I just appreciate y'all. Philly Hot Radio, man. Keep on doing what you're doing. And just thank y'all for having me.
Man.
You've been motivated.
All right, I'm
I
motivated.
haven't heard that one in a while. But let me just before because I want to counter what he just said. That you know what, I didn't know I was motivating him. I'm sitting up here like he motivating. I just couldn't use that slogan because like you don't want to step on somebody's toes.
True.
But you want to like show sign of like, damn, I respect that. I like that. So I never used that one. But it's to all those who are motivating others. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I
Thumbs up.
congratulate you. I did a post on Facebook, and I said, to all my haters who are clapping back to those who are making positive moves, I was like, oh, we must be pissing you off. That's your cue to get up.
Right.
Don't be clapping back at us, clapping back basically, like you just talking trash about us when we out here doing some stuff that no one's stopping you from, no one. There's nothing stopping you but you from motivating. But anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Brandon, for coming on.
Thank y'all so
appreciate it.
much. Appreciate it.
Yes, so we will be, you got to come back on. Yeah.
Oh, Brandon will most definitely be back on. And look, and I didn't say this, but Brandon, the person I call sometimes, you know how you gotta vent sometimes.
That's right.
Oh.
Accountability.